Hi, I'm Matt Welch for Reason TV here in Las Vegas at Freedom Fest, and I'm joined today by David Kirby. He's Vice President at Freedomworks. He's also a policy analyst at the Cato Institute, and for the purposes of this conversation, has also been doing very interesting work over the years with David Bose over at Cato, looking at the libertarian vote in America. Now, you were just telling me off camera that you're doing some interesting research about the word libertarian.
That's right.
Tell us about that.
Well, the research that David Bose and I have been doing for the last 10 years is looking at libertarian voters, the people who broadly construed are fiscally conservative but socially liberal. They're the independent-minded voters, the moderates that you talk about in your book, Declaration of Independence. The word libertarian, though, we've always had as this operating assumption is this clunky word that nobody knows. They're confused about it. They're not choosing to identify themselves as libertarian, even if they have those background beliefs. But we've noticed in the last 15 months an uptick in the number of people who are actually self-identifying as libertarian. So basically, Freedomworks conducts polls of its own members, and right now we have a big community. It's about 4 million people on Facebook and 2 million people on our email list. And we asked them, are you libertarian? And in December 2011, at the beginning of the Republican presidential primary season, 30% said, yes, I'm libertarian, which is still a big number. But 15 months later, we just finished a poll where we found that 38% of this very same group are now calling themselves libertarian. Now, that's an 8 percentage point increase over a period of 18 months. Now, that may not sound like a lot, but in political science terms, this is actually a really radical shift. It's almost like you've heard about polling on gay marriage, where suddenly the public's views on gay marriage shifted radically over a period of 2 or 4 years, and the early indicators were about an 8 percentage point increase, and then it flips over to a 20 percentage point increase. It's sort of this kind of wave that comes, and maybe this is an early indicator that this word libertarian is starting to catch on.
It's interesting, when we first interviewed Rand Paul back I think in 2010 or so, he was talking about how he didn't like to use the word libertarian. In fact, he wrote a piece for the USA Today when he was first running for Senate saying, libertarian, not so fast, and he preferred to call himself a constitutional conservative. Now he goes around saying if the GOP is going to exist, it needs to become more libertarian.
Yes.
He calls himself a libertarian conservative. So you see, and he explained to us, he thought that libertarian was a scary word to people in Kentucky. He didn't want to freak them out. Now he's lost that fear.
Yeah, I mean, Ron Paul, they've certainly popularized the word, but another interesting thing is Glenn Beck, the conservative media icon, recently on his television show said, I'm no longer a conservative, I consider myself libertarian. Now, a lot of libertarians are like, Glenn Beck as a libertarian, but what he's signaling to his audience is that this word no longer has a negative connotation. It's something that's positive, especially with NSA, with IRS snooping, all these sort of civil liberties kind of issues that kind of are exercising our kind of libertarian outrage. Citizens are beginning to kind of see this as a kind of place that's a comfortable way to say, yeah, I'm part of that. Interestingly, among this 8 percentage point increase, who's changing? They're actually more socially conservative people. So it's actually kind of the Glenn Beck audience type who are beginning to self-identify as libertarian when previously they might have called themselves conservative or socially conservative.
How much do you think that's just a case of that the people in charge are Democrats, and whenever there's Democrats running things, then Republicans or conservatives discover they're inner libertarian?
I'm sure that's a factor, but these people have no love for the Republican Party. So we tacked on another question on our poll that said, okay, only 38% think they're libertarian, but which best describes you? Libertarian or Republican? And 88% said libertarian, which is actually astonishing. I mean, how low the Republican Party has gone in its kind of distrust among its own voters. I mean, these are Tea Party people who probably vote Republican at a very high rate. But why is that? It's because the Republican establishment is going after libertarian and libertarian-leaning Republicans in the media. You saw Karl Rove recently called Justin Amash the most liberal Republican in Congress, which is just outrageous. He's a libertarian Republican. He scored 100% on Freedomworks scorecard, 100% on Cato's scorecard, 100% on Club for Growth's scorecard. But Karl Rove is threatened by a Justin Amash who might run in Michigan as a Senate candidate because he's got his establishment pick, no doubt, that he wants to promote. Of course, Bill Kristol and the neocons are already trying to take down Rand Paul, going after one of his staffers because of his views on foreign policy. So it seems like the establishment Republicans are probably more scared of this kind of libertarian energy that's sort of bubbling up from the bottom up, and that's a good sign.
What's the upshot of an 8 percentage point increase? Like, why should people who are not named David Kirby or Matt Welch care that there are more self-identified libertarians out there?
I think it goes down to like how people see themselves in this political marketplace. Like, the brands are so tired, the Republican brand, the Democrat brand, especially among young people. Like, nobody wants to play this game. We've got all these choices that we have in our private life between iPhones and Android, or all the things that you can choose, and now we're having more options. So what I think is happening is you're having the reality of political identity kind of finally catch up to the reality of like the for-profit marketplace, and the explosion of choices. And now if this sort of identity emerges, you have another option where citizens like you who believe these same things can talk about it in a way with a shorthand word, even if it's a clunky word like libertarian, and understand where each other are coming from.
Awesome. Well, Libertarian Vote in America, David Kirby, thanks so much for joining us. For Reason TV, I'm Matt Welch.